If you want to be like Spider-Man, you have to walk like this. If you've spent even a second online, you've probably heard the intense arguments about who the best Spider-Man is. Tobey Maguire, Tom Holland, or Andrew Garfield. I think it's interesting that the Nicholas Hammond trilogy is never brought up in this conversation. If you're expecting me to say, this is actually the best Spider-Man trilogy and no one knows about it, you're wrong. Don't get me wrong, they're not horrible. They're just stranded in this 2.5-star limbo. I just don't think it's fair to entirely exclude them from the conversation. The origins of these three films is kind of weird. On September 14th, 1977, CBS aired a 90-minute pilot for a new television series called The Amazing Spider-Man. It aired for 13 episodes and then abruptly got canceled. CBS was also airing shows like Shazam, Wonder Woman, The Incredible Hulk, Captain America, and Doctor Strange. The network feared that CBS would become synonymous with campy, over-the-top superhero shows. This is really cool, or whatever, but what does this have to do with these three films? Well, I lied to you. They're not films at all. The 90-minute pilot turned into what we know as The Amazing Spider-Man. Episodes 2 and 3, The Deadly Dusts Part 1 and 2, turned into Spider-Man Strikes Back. And episodes 12 and 13, The Chinese Webs Part 1 and 2, turned into what we know as Spider-Man the Dragon's Challenge. These compound episodes got theatrical releases in places like Australia and Europe. Japan and other parts of Asia got their own show. I'm completely aware of how overly complicated this all is. Too bad. All three films eventually got VHS releases in the late 80s. So let's take a deep dive into CBS's Forgotten Spider-Man trilogy. The Amazing Spider-Man is an origin film directed by E.W. Swackhammer. It's entertaining, campy, and lighthearted. Things just sort of happen. Nothing really makes any sense. The film starts with a lawyer and a doctor teaming up to rob a bank. They drive their car into a deserted alley and promptly crash their car into a brick wall, leaving them both in a coma. Police label this the most bizarre crime. We then jump to Daily Bugle photographer Peter Parker conversing with J. Jonah Jameson about his photos. Peter wants Jameson to buy his photos, but Jameson wants something different. More interesting, pictures that just jump off the page to the reader. Robbie Robertson interrupts, telling the two of them to turn on the television. The police give a report that an unknown individual has admitted to mind-controlling the lawyer and the doctor into robbing the bank earlier that morning, and has 10 New Yorkers under his control. He will force them to commit suicide if he doesn't receive $50 million on the upcoming Friday. Peter leaves and goes to his lab at school, where he and his partner Dave are working with radiation. While trying to dispose of the radioactive waste, a spider falls into the cracks and gets exposed. Peter gets bit, brushes it off, and walks home, turning into an alley. A car comes after him, and Peter uses his newfound power to climb up a wall to avoid it, while the car plunges into a brick wall. Two mysterious men come and steal a briefcase full of money out of the back of the car and flee the scene. The police show up and question Peter. They grow suspicious when Peter can't explain why he didn't see where the money went. Peter goes home to have the goofiest power exploration montage in cinematic history. Peter takes the photos he took of the crime scene to Jameson.
Now, if you could get me a picture of the Spider-Man, that I'd buy.
Who?
Spider-Man. At least that's what these drunks called him. They saw someone climbing up and down the walls. Must be something in the water. Everyone's going crazy.
Peter admits to seeing Spider-Man at the scene. Jameson asks if he has any pictures of Spider-Man, and Peter lies, saying that he has it back at his house. However, Spider-Man's identity is a secret because he wears a costume.
Are you on drugs?
To cover up this lie, Peter rushes home to make a costume and to take a photo shoot, where we meet Aunt May. Aunt May adds nothing to the plot except for the explanation that Peter shouldn't forget to take his allergy pills. It isn't significant to the plot at all whatsoever, but this one line of dialogue gives her infinitely more character development than the MCU's Aunt May. Let's talk about the suit. It's cartoonish, the logos and eyes look goofy, and there's no face shell. But it fits the movie perfectly, and I kind of love it. He takes several photos of himself in costume and pitches them to Jameson. In the middle, Jameson gets a call telling him there was another robbery crash and sends Peter to get photos of it. He gets to the scene and another $5,000 are missing. The man in the car is named Professor Noah Tyler, and he works at Peter's university. Tyler is stuck behind the wheel, but Peter uses his super strength to free him. Miraculously, Tyler is the only driver not to be in a coma after the crime and gets rushed to the hospital. Peter meets his daughter Judy, and they ride together to the hospital. When Professor Tyler wakes up, he claims that he has no memory of the crime or the wreck. Once he's alone and resting, a mysterious man in a doctor's uniform comes into his room and places a pin onto Tyler's coat. It lets out an uncomfortable frequency, and Tyler slips back into his trance. He climbs out the window and attempts to commit suicide. Just in time, Spider-Man is there to save him and flee the scene before the cops take him in for questioning. I'm going to take a quick pause in the story to point out Peter starts sneezing a lot. It doesn't add anything to the plot whatsoever, but it's hilarious. Let's add a sin for every sneeze, double it for sneezing directly into his hands, and never mention it for the rest of the video.
He's not interested in helping. I'm sorry, I forgot my allergy pills.
Peter meets up with Judy, and she mentions meeting up with a mental healing guru her father goes to named Edwin Byron. She believes Byron can help explain her father's new behavior. At Byron's meeting, Peter and Judy listen to his speech about self-improvement, surrounded by people with the same pin as Professor Tyler. Back at Peter's lab, Peter develops these clunky bracelets with the power to shoot rope-like webs. Peter then realizes that his little line is dancing and concludes that it must mean that people are being brainwashed through intense radio waves. Spider-Man then decides to do his silly little climb back to Byron's building, where he nonchalantly admits to being the puppet master of the mind controlling, and then Spider-Man gets attacked by the ninja Bostaff men. He escapes and then immediately comes back to Byron's as Peter Parker to sign up for his self-help course. Like, this is stupid. This is obviously a horrible plan, and do you know why? Because he immediately gets brainwashed. He gets his very own pin, and the next time the pin goes off, he is commanded to climb to the top of the Empire State Building and kill himself. And of course the pin goes off and Peter starts to ascend the Empire State Building. But you gotta remember, there's 2 more movies in this trilogy. Spider-Man can't die yet. The pin falls off. Spider-Man swings over to Byron's and destroys the radio towers, and everyone snaps out of the trance. The mind control machine short circuits and ends up putting Byron into his own trance. Spider-Man shows up, tells him to go down to the police station and turn himself in. Spidey then takes multiple selfies with the Bostaff men, and then the credits roll. Here's the thing about this film. Nicholas Hammond is really good. Typically in Spider-Man films, there are themes of responsibility, heavy consequences, and high stakes. This has none of those. And it's perfect. They have disgusting special effects, ninjas with flamethrowers, and cheesy dialogue. It's just so perfect. I think the most refreshing part was the fresh take on the origin. Peter creates the Spider instead of Oscorp, and the love interest isn't Gwen or MJ. I think one of its biggest strengths is just how unlike any other Spider-Man movie from today it is. It's hard to compare it to anything else. Is it a well-rounded, great piece of cinema? Absolutely not. He scares a cab driver in his suit and is forced to pathetically get a ride home in the back of a garbage truck. He tells Jameson that he's able to get the perfect picture of Spider-Man just because he believes. And he gets out of police questioning because he needs to study. This movie is just hysterical. Spider-Man Strikes Back is about a millionaire record label owner who wants to assassinate the President of the United States with an atomic bomb. Not even joking. Let's figure out how he got here. The film starts with a woman on the edge of a building about to jump off and kill herself. Spider-Man climbs down to save her, and the entire rescue is captured on film. The footage makes its way to Florida, where a young reporter named Gail Hoffman gets sent to New York in an attempt to interview Spider-Man. I don't like the name Gail. Peter is sitting in a lecture when his teacher mentions that he has plutonium for them to experiment with. The whole class starts yelling at him, saying that someone could easily steal it to create an atomic bomb. The teacher reassures them that nothing bad will happen and that the school has hired competent security guards. This is what we call Chekhov's atomic bomb. Joanna Cameron reporter meets Peter, and she says she won't leave Peter's side until she gets an interview with the Spider-Man. Peter gets this weird-ass psychic spider sense where he sees 3 of his classmates break in to steal the plutonium from across town. These kids make as much noise possible while trying to hide from security.
Carla, close the safe.
Spider-Man shows up, but it's too late, and is seen leaving the crime scene. An APB is sent out saying that Spider-Man stole the plutonium. The three kids, Weird Al, Fonzie, and Woman, are a bit upset that Spider-Man is getting credit, so they decide to prove their point. They need to build a bomb.
It's the only way we can make our point. We have to build a bomb.
We then cut to this man, being sponge bathed by a beautiful 70s woman in a white bikini while drinking a goblet full of milk. How strange. Oh, he's doing karate now. This man is named Mr. White, and once finding out about the plutonium, he books a flight to New York. Back in New York, Peter explains step by step to Joanna Cameron reporter how to make a bomb, and somehow this is turned into a half-assed talk about responsibility.
Nobody asked him to save the world.
I don't really think he wanted any part of being a superhero.
Then all he has to do is turn in his little blue tights.
And what about his conscience? What is the point of having some kind of special power if you don't use it to help people? I mean, what kind of a life can he really have? Think about it for a minute. He has to lie to everybody. At work, to his friends. What about girlfriends? How could he ever hope to get married and just have a normal life? People think it would be really wonderful to have Spider-Man's powers. Let me tell you, I'm not so sure whether it's a blessing or a curse.
He talks about not wanting to be Spider-Man or the responsibility of it, but nothing negative has happened to him yet, and it feels like they're just trying to check the talk about responsibility box. This conflict is never addressed again and is completely dropped. Mr. White calls Peter to come to his hotel for an interview. Peter and Joanna Cameron reporter show up, instantly get attacked, and get away. Peter and Joanna Cameron reporter decide it isn't safe for Peter to go back to his apartment, so he spends the night at Joanna Cameron reporter's hotel room. Peter gets laid.
Parker, you weren't in your apartment last night.
No, I wasn't. I spent the night here.
That's right.
On the couch, Captain.
Damn it. At this point, Weird Al, Fonzie, and Woman finish the bomb, but Woman gets cancer from the radiation poisoning. She is rushed to the hospital, and the police link the radiation poisoning to the plutonium, leading to Weird Al and Fonzie's arrest.
We were just trying to show how easily it could be done. Yes, we only wanted to point out the need for better security.
Pissed. You punk geniuses. I hope you have room on your consciences for all the lives that may be lost.
Their genius plan was to steal the plutonium and build an atomic bomb just to prove the point that it was unsafe because someone could steal the plutonium and make an atomic bomb. White's men overhear that the bomb is being stored in Fonzie's apartment. Spider-Man and Mr. White's henchmen race to the bomb. We never see Woman, Weird Al, or Fonzie again. Spider-Man puts a tracker on Mr. White's car and then proceeds to the roof to immediately get thrown off. Peter follows the tracker to Los Angeles with J. Jonah Jameson and Joanna Cameron reporter. JJ is paying for it, so it's technically a business expense. In LA, they follow the tracker, get into a car chase, steal motorcycles, and fight in a Western movie backlot. Now that Mr. White knows that there is heat on him, he demands $1 billion, or he will assassinate the president. He kidnaps Joanna Cameron reporter and forces her to wear a white bikini.
Very nice.
Why do I have to dress this way?
2 reasons. 1, because I like women in bikinis. And 2, I feel safer when I know there's no place for them to hide any weapons.
Spider-Man swings in and saves Joanna Cameron reporter. Spidey says, "Call the police and tell them that Mr. White is going to assassinate the president." And Joanna Cameron reporter is like, "Are you stupid? They'll never believe such a story." Yes they will. Spider-Man decides that the president's life is in his hands. He free falls out of a helicopter, finds the bomb, and disarms it with 1 second left. Mr. White flies away, Peter takes a selfie with the atomic cancer bomb, and the credits roll. I enjoyed this film so much more than the first one. This is a Peter Parker story. He rarely dons the suit and spends most of his time with Joanna Cameron reporter. Just like the first, Spider-Man Strikes Back is incredibly fun, campy, and goofy as all hell. Unlike the other two, Spider-Man: The Dragon's Challenge is completely and utterly boring. Let's get through this quickly. In Hong Kong, there's an old man named Mr. Zeter. He wants a man named Min Lo Chen dead because he's a spy or something. I don't know, it doesn't even matter. Min goes to New York looking for 3 ex-Marines he met 40 years ago. J. Jonah Jameson says, Oh, Peter just did a report about the Marines. He probably can find intel about them.
I need to know the names and whereabouts of those 3 Marines.
That's the only clue in this picture?
Peter gets the names of the Marines and goes with Min to the Daily Bugle archives to see if there's anything else they can find. But they get ambushed by Zeter's assassins. Peter decides it's not safe for Min to be out with assassins coming after him, so he goes to his niece's apartment to stay. Her name is Emily. Peter finds the files for the Marines and goes to Emily's apartment. But more assassins show up. Peter jumps out a window, Spider-Man climbs back through the same window, Min has a heart attack, and the assassins get arrested. Peter finds out that one of his school professors, Roderick Dent, is one of the Marines. Marine number 2 is in assisted living in Florida, and the 3rd Marine had died. Peter then follows 2 more assassins into the subway station and steals a microfilm reader. It's never addressed again or has any relevance, but this guy seems pretty pissed. Also, they shoot Peter point blank in the back.
Shut up.
It's okay, he recovers in 1 minute and 9 seconds. The Bugle decides it's safest for Min if they report he died of the heart attack and the assassins go back to Hong Kong. This somehow works. Peter goes up to school teacher Roderick and says, "You killed a Chinese school teacher and you stole $10,000. School teacher Roderick responds by saying, "Nah, that wasn't me." So Peter, school teacher Roderick, and Emily fly to Hong Kong. Do you remember Emily? She's important now. They land in Hong Kong about 54 minutes into the film. The camera follows them as tourists until 1 hour and 8 minutes when school teacher Roderick gets kidnapped. Not even joking. 14 minutes of tourism. That's like 15% of the entire runtime. Thankfully, Peter places a tracker into school teacher Roderick's pocket. Spider-Man steals a boat, there's a boat chase, and the assassin gets away, so Peter and Emily get into a helicopter to go after them. They land, and Peter runs off to try to save school teacher Roderick.
You look Chinese if you don't show your face!
Yeah, I know, that's the whole idea.
Peter climbs a building, gets shot again, and drowns. He doesn't drown. At the hospital, Peter gets unmasked in front of Emily. This really doesn't add anything to the film. Peter gets out of the hospital, breaks into Zeter's house, hits him with a door, frees schoolteacher Roderick, and calls the police. Also, he kisses Emily. Credits roll. I want so badly to enjoy this film. I really do. I went into it with high hopes from Spider-Man Strikes Back and was completely blindsided by how slow and boring this was. I've been talking about the plot for the past few minutes. I want you to go into the comments and try to explain what's happening in this movie. Why do they go to Hong Kong? Why does Zeter want Min dead? You can't give short, 1-second, half-ass explanations on why characters are doing things, and then have their actions completely contradict that statement. If you're into film or have just been chronically online for the past few years, you've probably heard of the cinematic disaster Cool Cat Saves the Kids. The director Daddy Derek got footage of his character Cool Cat inside the Hollywood Parade. He then bends the plot of his film to fit the footage he previously shot, just to flex that his brand was a part of the parade. I bring this up only because it's the only other time I've gotten this feeling in a film before. Director Don McDougall shot scenes with Spider-Man inside Hong Kong and needed to mold the plot around that. The entire trilogy is filled with so much, what just happened? It either boosts the movie up or completely tears it down. The film goes from laughably stupid to boring and painful, then directly back to laughably stupid, and then ends up with something vaguely interesting and creative and leaves you thinking, what the hell did I just watch? I think Letterboxd user Michael Sean describes it best. These Spider-Man TV movies are perfect examples of how superheroes were considered strictly kid stuff in the 1970s. They're campy and corny and full of plot holes. Not to mention idiot characters who can't figure out that Peter Parker is Spidey regardless of how much he flaunts it in their faces. But they're undoubtedly super fun. In some ways, they're even more impressive than their big screen counterparts. That might seem like a remarkable statement, but you have to consider that they had real stuntmen crawling down the sides of high-rise buildings and hanging from helicopters over LA. No amount of CGI can touch that for impressiveness. Of course, that only accounts the technical side of things. Nicholas Hammond does decent work as the golly gee whiz version of Peter Parker, even if he is a little on the old side for the role. And it's a good thing, because he's the one we spend most of our time with, not Spidey. These films are pretty good once you consider they're on a 70s television budget. And based on how sporadic these episodes were shot and aired, I'm surprised it turned out as decent as it did. Before I end this video, I want to say a huge thanks to the channel Goth Pop Film and Media Edits. He does fantastic work with upscaling and restoring old obscure movies like this. Without them, this video would have looked like this. No one wants this. This is disgusting. Thanks for watching. Maybe sometime in the future I'll attempt to tackle Spider-Man. Make sure to subscribe and I'll kiss you on the mouth.